Hello guys, this is Boomer here and welcome back to another video, and today we are doing a tier list. So now this will be a part 2 video. So in part 1 we'll do the actual tier list and all that sort of stuff. In part 2 what I'm going to do is recommend some food reworks. Now these reworks can be just general reworks to a food system. They can also be just reworks to certain types of foods. But yeah, that'll be part 2. So let's go into part 1 then, shall we? Now, I removed the S and E tier from last time because we don't have as many items and I don't think they will be as useful. And here are what the tiers mean. So, God tier means it needs to be nerfed ASAP. Probably nerfed a lot. A tier means it's a very solid food choice. Very often you might find yourself eating it. B tier means that it's kind of an above average food, and you can, still eat it pretty significantly. C tier means it's kind of average, so maybe you eat it once and twice, in a few worlds or whatever, but you won't eat it a lot. D tier is going to be like slightly below average. I think a lot of foods will be going in this tier in particular. F tier means that the food is basically useless. Like, there's no reason eating it. And then Z tier means that the food will harm you instead of help you. Now, there's two different criteria we're going to be using for ranking these foods. One of them is the general replenishment that you get. So this could be hunger replenishment and saturation. Both of them will be factors in this tier list. And also the ease of obtaining these certain types of foods. Because of that, some foods might not be that good, although saturation-wise, although they might be very easy to obtain, so they will be ranked higher. So yeah, let's get started. Also, there are some items on here. This is not a tier list I made. I might not use like sugar and wheat. I'm not going to use ingredients like that. So yeah, first let's start off with bread. I think bread is a solid B tier. Well, actually, no, I'm going to put an A. Bread is very easy to get from villages. Villages have so much wheat lying around. It is just ridiculous from that standpoint. Speedrunners use bread so much because of how easy it is to get from villages. When it comes to growing wheat for bread, I personally think growing potatoes is better, but I also know that some people prefer to grow wheat for bread, so yeah, that's why So I feel like if it was just that, I'd put it in B tier, although since it is so easy to get from villagers, I'll put it in A. Bread is also a very good food source. Well, maybe not very good, although it's still pretty good. Like, I am currently eating bread on Oddcraft, so there's also that. Carrots, I will put in A tier as well. They are so easy to get. You just need a few carrot crops and you are set. And also their hunger replenishment and saturation, even though it's not the best, it's still pretty decent as well. And like I said, you barely need any cropland to survive off of carrots. You also don't need to smelt them or anything like that. So yeah, solid A tier. Potatoes, I will also put in A tier. I know I'm starting off with a lot of A tiers. I'm starting off with the crops, if you're wondering. Potatoes are also very good. You can smelt them, and if you do smelt them, they are very efficient for their cost. You basically get the same amount as bread, but rather than having 3 wheat for bread, you get more than 1 potato most on average. I think it's like 2 potatoes per potato crop you cut down. So basically it's like, or no, it's more like 1.5, I think. So basically you're getting 4.5 times efficiency if you smelt the potatoes compared to bread. Although there is the smelting factor, which some people don't like, so that's why it's in A tier. Now, raw potatoes, I will put, I guess, in D tier. I just realized it looks like they're smiling. Did you? I've never even realized that before. But yeah, it only gives you a half a bar of hunger replenishment. Carrots basically have 3 times the hunger replenishment. I'm pretty sure saturation also adds up like that as well. The only reason why it's an F tier, not an F tier really, is because it's easy to get, and also it's a crop, so because of that, it is also easier to get. And yeah, you also like carrots get more than 1 per round. Even though I think carrots are way better, they still aren't the worst food. Poisonous potatoes, Z tier. I think that's self-explanatory. I mean, they're just supposed to be a joke. Like, oh, and I realized now that the poisonous potatoes have kind of like that, you know, kind of have a frown on them. That's kind of funny. Yeah, I mean that to be honest, that probably was the case when I put them in Z tier. Whatever. Frown all you want. We all know you're useless. Beetroots, I'm gonna put in F tier. Basically, they're just a potato, but you get less of them because it grows like wheat. Also, you can't fortune them, so that's also another negative of beetroots. There are just so many negatives on beetroots. There's a reason why you almost never see beetroots compared to other three crops. Almost nobody grows them. Also, there's the fact that you can't really easily get them. From my knowledge, I think you can get them like from dungeons or like from end cities or whatever, but you can't get them from zombies on like carrots and potatoes, and you can't get them from grass seeds on like wheat. So yeah, I think F tier is a good spot for it. I don't know anyone who would unironically eat beetroots. So yeah, beetroot soup. I'm also putting in F tier. I think it's just such a bad soup. Now, I think what Mojang was trying to do was they saw, you got wheat, you can make wheat for bread, and some people were using that, and they're like, oh, maybe I can make an even better food source I can get from crops, although it costs more. Yeah, the fact that it's a soup just makes it not work. The idea not work because you can only have one of them. Also, it's by far, well, not by far, but it is the least saturating soup in the game. Even worse than mushroom stew, which is a million times cheaper. Also, something important to note is that you need 6 beetroots in order to make one beetroot soup. So yeah, not a good food source at all. And that is also saying something because mushroom stew you can literally just get by milking a mushroom cow. Anyways, let's do mushroom soup next. I'm gonna put in B tier actually. This might shock some of you, but I know on many worlds I start with mushroom soup a lot. It really depends on the biome you're in. Now, this really only applies if you're in a dark oak forest because there's so many of those mushrooms, and if that's the case, it's very easy to get food because of that. Or also, if you really wanted to, you can grab a mushroom cow and get infinite mushroom stew from it. Although that probably isn't the most efficient way of getting food. There's a lot better options. Although just the ease of it in the early game, if you start in a dark oak forest, makes it B tier. So rabbit stew, I'm actually gonna put that in C tier. This might shock some of you as well, probably even more than mushroom stew, but it actually has some pretty good saturation with it. And even though if you craft it, I've heard that you get more saturation from in Hunger Replenishment from just the ingredients itself, but it's also one stackable. You can get them from butchers, and the deal is pretty good. Actually, I'll put it in D tier. It's a high D tier, but I guess D tier is fine because I feel like it isn't quite C. Cooked rabbit, I'm gonna put in D tier as well. So hard to get. I mean, it's basically bread, although impossible to get. Like, you cannot survive off of cooked rabbit. You can, well, unless you are like a very avid rabbit breeder, you just can't. And plus, breeding rabbits just to get cooked rabbit will take so much more effort than any other food, or at least land food, because it has less saturation than any other one. And also, you only have a chance of getting one for each rabbit you kill. And overall, rabbits are just bad to kill in general. They just don't provide a lot. The reason why it's not an F tier, of course, is because it's a cooked food, and because of that, it does have some decent hunger replenishment and saturation, so that's why it's in D. I think with this, I might do the meats now. Cooked mutton, I am going to put in C tier. Now, it's definitely better than a rabbit. I don't know why you would kill sheep out of any mob for mutton, but I guess if you do want to do that, it's okay. I mean, shearing sheep, if you need the wool, shearing sheep is probably a better option, and if you need the food, killing another mob would probably be a lot better. Although if it's early in the game and kind of are just looking for any mob to kill, sheep aren't that bad. Now, also something else to note is that mutton has the same saturation and hunger punishment as chicken, and not pork chops and steak. So yeah. Moving on to steak. Originally, if this was for 1.9, I'd put it in God tier, but I'm going to put it in A tier now because, yeah, steak is definitely one of the best food sources. Now, It's arguably the best. It depends if you prefer golden carrots or steak or pork chops. They are now kind of interchangeable since pork chops have been buffed since then. But yeah, I mean, personally, I prefer steak over golden carrots. I know most people don't, but yeah, it's really a preference. The only reason why it's not in God tier is because you can only get it by killing cows, and that can take a while to get a lot of steak, like to provide, and sell and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's why it's in A tier. Moving on to the pork chops, and these will be going into God tier. Now you're probably wondering, why are pork chops in God tier and steak in A? Well, for that answer, I have one. For that question, I have one single answer: Hogland Farms. They produce so many pork chops that's not even funny. Like it can set an entire server just from a tiny little Hogland farm. It is ridiculous. Mojang, if you're watching this, please nerf Hogland farms, okay? First, I definitely start off with nerfing the rates at which Hoglands drop pork chops because now they drop like 4 to 6 pork chops each, and you can like get a lot of them just by traveling the Nether because of that. So yeah, maybe make it like a pig and like 1 to 3, or maybe even make it less than a pig, like 0 to 2, so that you have more of an incentive to breed pigs for pork chops. I don't know, it's up to you, but I'd also probably recommend nerfing the spawn rate as well for hoglins on the nether roof. Well, I guess this could apply to any mob on the nether roof, but yeah, especially hoglins. Cooked chicken, I will put in A tier. I'm having a lot of A tier foods. Now, cooked chicken, it can. The reason why it's an A tier is because of automatic cooked chicken farms. They can provide you a lot of meat, and chicken's also a pretty good food source. And depending on how many chickens you have, you can be self-sufficient from it. I've never made one which is self-sufficient yet, although I've heard that it is possible, so that's why I'm putting it in A tier. You can also get a lot of chickens from egg farms, of course, so it is relatively easy to get it as well. It's a very good starter early on farm, and yeah, there is a lag warning though. I'm just gonna say that. Cooked cod. Oh, this is that cooked cod or that is okay. That's the old texture. Uh, Guardian Farms. They produce you so much cod. It is not even funny. Like you could probably feed an entire server with cooked cod with just one Guardian Farm. It is ridiculous. You can also get a decent amount of them from AFK fish farms. And yes, they do still work. They were just nerfed. A lot of people ask me that question. So yeah, they do still work. In accordance with AFK fish farms, salmon I'm probably going to put in B tier. Now, the only way you get them really is either by killing salmon in a stream, of course, or by having an AFK fish farm. AFK fish farms produce you a lot of salmon, but something to note is that Guardian farms do not. And something else to note is that salmon does have more saturation and hunger than cod. Cod has the exact same as potatoes and bread. Salmon it has the exact same as chicken. So that's just a fact you probably didn't need to know, but now you know, I guess. And yeah, that's why I said B tier. Kelp. I am gonna put it in C tier because I think it, or at least for me, I can make a automatic kelp farm, smoke it and that sort of stuff. It's just really easy to automate and that sort of stuff. Yes, you need a lot of fuel, but I've not made a lot of kelp farms in the past, although I can see if kelp was introduced a bit earlier and when I was younger, I definitely would have made a lot of them for food. That's all I'm gonna say. Although at the same time, kelp only gives you one hunger replenishment, but it's just still so obtainable. So yeah, C tier. You also can literally get it anywhere if you're next to an ocean. So yeah, there's also that. Melons. I will put melons. It's like on the same level as stew. Not really, actually. I'm gonna put it in C tier. The the only reason why I'm not putting it in B is because stew just gives you so much more saturation, that sort of stuff. Although it is a similar concept, melons you can very easily find in jungles. They also give you a decent amount of them. So yeah, I mean they're overall pretty good. They aren't as good as stew though, although you can stack melons unlike stew. So yeah, it really depends. It's just easy to get if you're in a jungle. If you're in a jungle, you don't really need to worry about food because of melons. and that's why it's in C tier. Apples will go in D tier. Now, it depends on the sourcing. If you get it from trees, this is what I'm really thinking about. I don't think you'll use villagers a lot to get apples for food. If you're cutting down trees, and trying to get apples, it is not reliable at all. I mean, that's probably for the better of the game because if you could get a reliable food source from chopping down trees, that would probably be pretty broken. But yeah, the reason why it's not F tier is because kind of like the rabbit, it also has good hunger replenishment, or at least decent hunger replenishment and saturation. So yeah, that's why it's in D tier. Golden apples. Oh. Okay, you know what? For those tryhards who are on like, I don't know, what do you call it? What is that SMP called? The anarchy one where like everyone's hacking? Oh, 2B2T. Yeah, if you're on 2B2T, this is definitely the food source you're gonna use. Although I don't know if in any other world you're actually gonna use golden apples as a food source. I mean, if you are able to do that, that's absolutely ridiculous. But I also can appreciate that in boss fights and that sort of stuff, they are really useful. So yeah, that's why it's in B tier. Notch apples, I'm actually gonna put in F tier. That probably surprised a lot of you, although they're just so rare, and I usually just collect them. I don't eat them at all. Yes, they'll help you a lot in a boss battle or whatever. Although I don't really see, there's not really any point in the game where I'm like, oh, I need to eat a notch apple in order to defeat this or whatever. I just kind of collect them, just for fun, and that's just due to how rare they are. So yeah, golden carrots, God tier. Now, golden carrots are most people consider the best food source in the game because they have the best saturation out of any stackable food source. Now, the reason why I say God tier instead of A tier, I really wish that both of these were in A tier. Although the reason I say God tier is because of villagers. It just makes getting golden carrots so easy. I mean, that trade also, the golden carrot trade needs to be nerfed. I feel like it was fine how it was before, even though you had gold farms and carrot farms, you could make golden carrots that way. You still needed to do a lot of work to get a sufficient amount of golden carrots. Now, though, with villager trading, it just makes things so much easier. And yeah, I just think that route in particular needs a nerf. And maybe gold farms as well. Who knows? Honey. I'm gonna put honey in C tier. I Now I don't know if a lot of people know this, although honey does not have a lot of saturation at all. I've actually tried eating it before. It does not. It does stack to 16, although, and it does remove poison, which can be useful, like if you're trying to make a cave spider spawner, whatever. Well, actually, that's like really niche. I'm actually gonna put it in D tier. They are pretty hard to get as well. Hard to get is like you don't get a lot of them, and bee farms can be kind of slow if you're trying to rely off of them as a food source. So that's why it's in D tier. Glowberries, I'm also going to put in D tier. Well, if I put kelp in C tier, I could probably put them in C tier as well. I mean, if you have access to Lush Cave, go right ahead, grow some glowberries. It really doesn't matter. Okay, why do you have kelp in C tier? All right, I'm knocking all of those down to D tier. Yeah, if you have access to a lush cave, you can rely on glowberries a bit, although they do grow pretty slow from my knowledge. I personally have never grown glowberries. I don't really know how fast they grow, although I'm pretty sure they grow pretty slowly. So I don't think they're the best food source, at the same time, I don't think they're the worst either. Oh, with the soups, I forgot. Suspicious stew. I'll put it in B tier. A lot of speedrunners like to use it because it can get you a lot. If you use saturation stew, it is by far the best food source in the game. And also, depending on the effect, it can really help you with speedrunning. And also, it's pretty easy to get. So yeah, that's why I have it in B tier. I think it's on par rough with mushroom stew. I guess now that I think about it, if you had like the flowers around, you could have turn all those mushroom stews into suspicious stews. Suspicious stews are like a bit too new. That like when I was in my childhood and still figuring out Minecraft, it wasn't an option. So I never really did that, although I can definitely see that. Although that can be situational depending on where in a Dark Oak Forest you spawn. So I guess it's fine having them in the same tier. Tier. I don't know. It's kind of. Hmm. Part of me really wants me to bump up Suspicious Stew to A tier, although I don't think it's as good as these foods. And I don't want to bump this down to C because I don't. I think it's better than these foods as well. I guess I'll leave both of them B tier. All right. Sweet berries. I'm gonna put them in C tier. They're a lot like the melons. If you spawn in a taiga, you can grab some of them, and they grow pretty quickly, and you can get a pretty decent food source. The only problem is that they do hurt you, so you kind of have to worry about them, and they also don't have a lot of hunger replenishment nor saturation. So no, in that sense, they are a lot like melons. Cookies. I'm actually gonna put them in B tier. This might sound really weird, but depending on like how you prefer food, cookies can actually provide more value than bread, and they also have a very similar recipe. So if you're like in a jungle, you could actually, if you want to, use cookies instead of bread. Since when you craft cookies, you get 8 cookies, unlike with bread where you only get one. Cake, I'm gonna put an F tier. I know Stampy Longnose will be very not very happy with me, but yeah, it's just it costs a lot and it doesn't give you a lot, and also it gives you very little saturation from my knowledge. I don't think I've ever made a cake other than like trying to replicate Stampy Longnose World, so yeah, that's why I have it in F tier. Pumpkin pie, I am actually gonna put it in eh, yeah, I think I'm actually gonna put it in B tier. It costs an egg, a sugar, and a pumpkin, I'm pretty sure. And all of those are pretty easy to get. And also, you do get the same hunger replenishment as steak. Granted, it does not have a lot of, not, does not have very much saturation, I always compare to steak. So they might need more. Although pumpkin pie is definitely not a bad food source at all. I remember on one survival series, I was relying on pumpkin pie a lot. It is pretty reliable, actually, surprisingly enough. Chorus fruit, I'm only gonna talk about the food property. I'm not gonna talk about the teleportation property, although that can be kind of wonky sometimes. Now, I only use chorus fruit if I'm out of food and end busting. In that situation, it's very good because it basically gives you infinite foods, and chorus fruit is literally everywhere in the end. But other than that, I don't see why you would be using it. I mean, the main reason why I say that is because the teleportation mechanic. I mean, I know I said before that I wasn't gonna talk about it, although it kind of links back up to that because it kind of discourages people from using it, if you know what I mean. Rotten flesh. I'm gonna put that in D tier actually. It can it has very little saturation. Its hunger replenishment isn't that bad, although you can get it from killing zombies. It is definitely the most obtainable food source. So if you're like really, if you're starving or whatever, I guess you can use rotten flesh. Although I wouldn't recommend it at the same time. So yeah, I think D tier is a good place for it. And now, lastly, we have the raw meat. So, oh, we also have Spider Eye. That goes into Z tier. I mean, I think all the Z tiers just trick someone who's new to Minecraft and say that they're like OP and whatever, and make them eat them and watch them laugh. I mean, that's literally the point of them, I guess. First off, the tropical fish is going in F tier. I don't even know why it's so bad. Like, I think it's only a 2 hunger replenishment. Its saturation is absolutely horrible. It's basically like another raw fish, and it doesn't have its cook variant either, which is really weird. So yeah, really bad food overall. Pufferfish is another Z tier, and I think pufferfish is even funnier to troll with people than others because it gives you nausea as well. Yeah, Russ, cod I'm gonna put in F tier as well. I don't even know how much hunger it gives you. I'm guessing one, and like next to no hunger replenishment, or next to no saturation. Sorry. Like don't think I've ever eaten raw cod. It's so bad. I think raw salmon. Don't know if that's like a bit better, but same thing there. Rabbit is also going in F tier. I'm pretty sure it's exactly like raw cod. It's just absolutely horrible in that regard. Not to mention, rabbits are so hard to find, so that just makes it even worse. Raw chicken's also going in F tier since it gives you the hunger effect, and it's basically a worse rotten flesh. And also, you need to kill a chicken from it in order to get it. Unlike zombies, where it can round flesh, where you can literally just kill any zombie and you get a lot. So yeah. Anyways, the last three meats, raw mutton, I'll put in D tier. I guess if you really need to eat it, go ahead. Although it's better off to cook it. And oh, ooh, this something doesn't feel right about that, but I'm gonna leave it as that. The reason why I have both raw steak and raw pork chops in C tier is because they give you an okay amount of saturation and hunger replenishment. And if you really need it, you're starving or whatever, go right ahead. They aren't the worst food sources in the world. Although oftentimes it's better to cook them since cooked they are just so much better. And last but not least, what did I do? Uh-oh. Actually, I dragged sweet berries into D tier. Oh, that's fine. But yeah, this is the last thing we have. The Minecraft Creeper Cheerios or whatever the hell they are. I've never tried them, although I imagine that if I do eat them, they'd start exploding in my stomach, so I'm gonna put that in Z tier as well. So yeah, this is my tier list right here. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you liked it, make sure to leave a like. If you disliked it, it's okay to dislike. I'd like to see an honest review. Make sure, of course, if you like the content, to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Peace out.